Welcome to the DQS New Auditor Onboarding Training. In this part of the presentation, we will discuss the candidate auditor path. This should be near and dear to your heart as you are all on the candidate auditor path. Based on your prior experience, a training plan will be or has been created and approved by your BLM and program management. Don't try and focus on reading this chart. This is a whole chart that shows the process flow for hiring, developing a training plan, which happens over here, and then getting you through the training process, which happens down here. The training plan defines the minimum number of training audits and audit days you will need to be nominated for qualification as a DQS auditor. The default training plan for someone with no third-party experience is a minimum of 4 training audits totaling at least 20 audit days. 11 of these days must be on-site days. Then the rest can be allocated for off-site activities like preparation and planning. The number of training audits and days can be reduced. We call that fast tracking if the auditor has third-party experience with another registrar. Second-party audits and internal audits may also be considered for potential reduction in number of days. Whenever a training plan is reduced, corporate form CF65 or an equivalent audit log must be presented as evidence that the training plan can be reduced based on audit experience. You should note that there are some programs that do not allow any reduction in training plans. Once you are on our books as a candidate auditor, the Auditor Development Coordinator will contact you for your availability to participate on training audits. The ADC, with inputs from your BLM and the corresponding program manager, will contact selected clients for their agreement. So we have to ask the clients if they will accept the candidate auditor. They are not obligated to accept candidate auditors, and they may decline. Once you have been confirmed, the coordinator will contact you and let you know. The lead auditor, who will evaluate your performance as a candidate auditor, will also be notified. Once you're confirmed, you should contact the lead auditor to coordinate logistics. Through your candidate auditor process, you're going to be completing something called the Auditor in Training, or AIT form. You need to download one of these from our websites. It is Form QF 1807. There are actually different Auditor in Training forms depending on the programs. So if we're talking about QM, or ISO 19000, or ISO 9000, it's QF 1807-1A. If we're talking ISO 14000, it has a different form number. At the end of the audit, you will be evaluated. You need to get that completed form from your evaluator and get it to the Audit Development Coordinator. So scan it and send it up to them upon the completion of the auditor. This is super important. Don't let the evaluator leave without filling out the form. The form travels from audit to audit. I'm going to show you what a completed one looks like. So here's our evaluee, Joe Smith. These are different audit training experiences Joe Smith has been on. So you can see, if you start out, you're just observing an audit, you get an O for observing it. If you audit the clause and you meet the requirements, you get an M. If you do not meet the requirements, you get an N. The goal is, at the end of this audit experience, so this is the last audit this particular evaluee went on, that all these columns show M's. So here's got M's over here, these are M's, so he's looking very good. He has no needs improvement. Here, he had a needs improvement. This was his very first audit, so that's to be expected. But he improved and changed those M's to N's. Now here you see something interesting. There's an M/N there. Anytime there is an N on the form, it needs to be explained in part 2 of that form. And I'm going to show you that in a second. go through the rest of his experience. This is a multi-page form. There's the rest of the clauses. He's got some M/Ns. Those need to be explained. And here's what part 2, getting to it, of the form looks like. So here they're explaining everything about M's and N's and all that, and what the feedback is to the assessor. Again, it's very important that you get this feedback and that you get these forms at the end of the audit. If you have an N on your form, you need to discuss it with your BLM or with the audit development manager, Dave Parla-Greco. Okay, I just showed you the form. It's set up by clauses, and then it has several characteristics of an auditor that come from 17021, our accreditation document. They're identified in each role. You're assessed on each clause or area. We went through the different scores. M meets requirements, N needs improvement. At the end, we want to have all M's. Now, there may be cases where you get to the end of your training experience and you have an N in something. It is possible to still qualify. We would need to look at it on a case-by-case basis, see what caused the N and whether there's anything that could be done to possibly ensure competency through some other manner. I mentioned part 2 of the form, and I showed you that. Part 2 must be filled out for each training audit. And again, at the end of the audit, I've said this a couple times now, so you know it's important. You need to get these forms and scan them and get them back to the audit development coordinator so they make sure we have them in the file. We will get them to the BLM and to the audit manager to make sure you're progressing. Once you've qualified, your status as an auditor must be maintained. You must do a minimum of 4 third-party audits each year. We do auditor scorecards, which compile feedback from other auditors, customers, technical review, and any other CPD. We have a witness auditor program where you'll be periodically witnessed doing an audit. And all this is combined to maintain your certification as an auditor. In addition, you may move forward to the candidate lead path. Your regional audit management, which is normally your BLM, will decide if you're ready for a candidate lead. The process is basically the same as what I just showed you. There are AIT forms, the exact same forms, where you're evaluated not on your clauses, but on the characteristics of a lead. That completes this section of the new auditor orientation onboarding for candidate auditor path. Thank you.